Oh my gosh, this is going to be one of our coolest episodes so far on Easy to Read Deep Thoughts. My special guest, Jack. Oh my, McCauley. I don't know if I've heard your last name pronounced yet.
Yeah, it's McCauley. It's a I don't know, Scotch Irish thing. Although
Awesome.
I'm not Scotch Irish. I don't know why. I just ended up with the name not like that. So
I like it. I like it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to do a quick introduction here. I'm going to ask Jack to introduce himself. Then I'll describe the structure of the show and we will dive right into it. I am super pumped about this one. No joke. I came up with this idea like 7 years ago. I have had zero people to talk to because, well, I'll get into that here in a second. My name is Jonathan Geyer. My first big claim to fame is I helped implement a health information exchange for the state of Minnesota, and I did this through St. Cloud, VA. At the time, we were the most successful HIE in the country. Some of what we did in St. Cloud was incorporated into the $10 billion Cerner contract that's going around right now. In that opportunity, I was able to sit down and drink a cup of coffee with 30 some odd thousand veterans. And that's a big deal. I bring it up every episode because it changed how I think. Yeah. Second claim to fame, I coach boxing here in St. Cloud. And we started when our gym filled up, we started putting our boxing classes on YouTube. And that turned out to be a real big deal. We're coming up on 500,000 views. And I was thinking similar to church service, if you can't make it in, my wife and I will watch it at home. Yep. That was a big deal. It is doing awesome. That is my spiel. Jack, if you could introduce yourself.
yeah, my name is Jack McCauley. I'm a entrepreneur, inventor. I have patents and so forth. And what I did to make a living was work at startup companies, in particular, a company called Red Octane, which produced the Guitar Hero video game. And that was first good exit I had. And then Oculus, which was sold, I co-founded Oculus, which was sold to Facebook in 2014. And I decided not to go to Facebook, so I quit. But those are my two. I've had probably about 6 other companies that have not done so well or done okay. But those were the 2 big successes. And for me, I don't have a lot of fear. I should have fear, but I don't. I don't have a component and financial fear. So I do really risky stuff. And I've lost, but boom bust cycles. Do really well, boom, do really well. But now I'm done with that stuff. I don't really do it anymore, except I'm working on something here. But and so post Oculus, I built a facility at UC Berkeley, which is my alma mater, and I'm the innovator in residence at UC Berkeley, which is like an inventor guy. And this place is a maker space with 3D printers, much like what I have or had. I got rid of that stuff, the purpose of Jacobs Institute is to get people's hands dirty, get them working on stuff and learning how to use tools and so forth. When I hired engineers, young engineers, a lot of them didn't know how to use hand tools like screwdrivers and wrenches and sockets and all that stuff and saws. They don't have any background in that, and it's like they're not a good hire because you're going to have to teach them how to do that. And they also they don't take things apart like a toy. Like I used to take toys apart to see how they work. So the purpose of Jacobs Institute is to endear them with those qualities. So when they go out and find a job, they're a good hire. So it's a creative space. It's like a mix of art and tech, like some programming and electronics, and also art, sculptures, and so forth. Really cool. So. And currently, I'm retired and I teach vehicle engineering at UC Berkeley through the civil engineering department. I teach electric vehicle design and engineering, physics, and so forth. That's what I'm doing.
Holy cow! This is I think you just suggested a future episode, but the delta in between reading information and then like applied information. Because you can read something and still it doesn't like reading comprehension, reading how to do something doesn't mean a lot until you do it.
YouTube is a high valued asset to learn things. It's a visual learning platform.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of garbage there and ads and stuff like that and bad stuff. But In particular, if you want to learn AI, there's great videos that in layman's terms teach you AI, how it actually works, the nuts and bolts of it, back propagation and so forth. I think it's a great platform to learn things on, much better than a textbook and a lecture, because you can back it up, go forward and back, and review it, go and read it again. So I wholeheartedly agree with you on the visual aspect of learning. I'm a visual person. I work in entertainment.
Yes, sir.
And I have to see and touch and feel things. That's just the way I am put together. And I mean, I can do the textbook work too. It's no problem for me, but I learn much faster visually. So to your point.
Oh my gosh, I got this whiteboard behind me, but that probably plays into this role too. Like, it's different when I write it on a board. Like
Right.
I don't know, I'm not sure. Oh my gosh. Well, let's dive into it, eh? Oh, show structure. We are going to read this, the newsletter I wrote. Jack, well, actually, in this week, I came up with the topic, which I normally don't. I came up with the topic. I am going to read this a paragraph at a time, and we are going to discuss the context, just what's going on. My ask to Jack before we started this was interrupt me. The whole point of the article is just to kind of curate a good conversation. So really, a deep conversation is the point of the show. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get rid. Oh, and another thing, I thought of this 7 years ago. It is 100% real to say that I have not been able to have this conversation in the last 7 years. Why? Because for it to make sense, you have to have a good understanding of business and a good understanding of cars, and that's a unique combination, I guess. Okay. Engines in business. This week's newsletter and LinkedIn Live is special. I picked this topic, and our special guest, Jack McCauley, is the only person I know that I could have had this conversation with. It's going to be awesome. Yes. I'm going to read the next one, and then engine and business are similar. The comparison between the two is the unique portion of this topic. And for the most part, the people I know who excel in one tend to lack in the other. I just spoke to that. For me, engines and business both function the same way. And in my experience, a working solution in one tends to naturally inspire a solution in the other. I'm guessing it's the same for you.
So let me just discuss, you mean internal combustion engines, correct? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah. An internal combustion engine, a gasoline engine, is 29% efficient. That means for every liter of fuel you put in, only 290 milliliters of that go to propel the vehicle forward. The rest is heat energy. It's waste, and it has to be dissipated out the exhaust and through a radiator. So, and to your point, let me just talk about EVs for a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The Tesla Model S is 90% efficient. So for every kilojoule you put into 1,000 joules, 900 of those joules go into moving the vehicles on its tires. And the way it does that is recovering the inertial energy when you brake. So it has many advantages. Of course, the argument being that, well, you have to generate the electricity to charge the battery. Yes, that's true. But a commercial power plant is much more efficient than a vehicle. They're up around 40% if they have good energy recovery. So like a business, I would say some businesses are very inefficient. I was looking at, let me just give you an example. I was in Paris last week, right? So I'm looking at LV, the company. It's a handbag company, right? They make luxury handbags and stuff, right? And I'm going, it's $900 for that thing. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, what are the cost of materials in this? And I go, maybe $14, $15, including the sewing and everything. It's not, but probably made in Europe somewhere, but maybe $15. They sell for $900. Look at their margins. Very, very, very high margins. And I've come to find out LV is a very rich company. It's a very wealthy company, global.
It's the top, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it?
Yeah. And now if you want to talk about, let's say, making video game controllers, your margins are very low. You're looking at, I remember 15 years, 20 years ago, you could buy a PlayStation 2 controller in China for $1. How do you make money doing that? I don't know. So I think it depends upon the market you're in, and of course your margins. Just like an engine, some are efficient and some are not. It turns out that margins on luxury goods are pretty high. I mean, think about perfume. What's it take to make a bottle of perfume? Come on, you pick some flowers and you put them in solvent and you dissolve the stuff and you condense it out and there's your perfume. But it's selling for $90 a bottle. You got the raw materials, flowers and stuff they put in it, whatever, spices. I don't know what they do exactly, but and I look at that and I go, no. So the margins on luxury goods are very high. The margins on hardware and so forth are very low. That's why if you have a hardware company, and I'm a hardware guy, right? To build hardware, it's very, very tough to find investors because they know this equation.
Oh.
So the margins on software are much, much higher. Particularly like AI now is red hot, right? So margins on software are much higher, and it's much more of an acquirable asset than hardware. So it depends upon what you're doing. If you're making video game controllers or consoles or something like that, the margins are low. If you're making perfume and handbags and stuff, your margins are pretty good. So like an engine, like internal combustion engine, electric, there's a difference. We actually measured the internal combustion engine efficiency with an instrument we built in class to see what it is. We don't know what it is, right? So we measure the energy of a piston moving up and down the side of a tube with a high-speed camera. And we found out it's 29%. That's all you get. So kind of surprising.
Oh my gosh. There's a part of this article I want to talk with you about because you're the only person I think knows what I'm talking about. In 1997, 1998, I don't know. I was in early high school or whatnot. Science project. I put 4 generators on a car on the tires to scrape energy from the braking systems, then put it back to an electric blower. It never really worked, but the general concept is.
Yeah, that would work. I mean, yeah, that's how electric vehicles work. They recover residual energy. Same with hybrids. The market for EVs is hot. Every car company on earth is making an electric vehicle of some sort. I've got a hybrid and I've got 2 EVs. I've got a Chevy Bolt, which is my main car, and then I've got a Tesla, which my better half drives. And I clearly see the advantage. Although we have high utility rates in California, I'm in California right in San Francisco. We pay 49 cents a kilowatt hour versus Minnesota's probably 19 or 20 or something like that.
We were 17 when I built that solar tracker. So 17 kilowatt.
That's about where we were. In my commercial building, we were at 19. So I have this house here is covered with solar panels. I've got 32 kilowatts, and I've got battery backups. So when the power goes out here, I still have lights and everything's working. So my point is that depending on how you do it, you can make the EV work really well for you. But if you're simply plugging it in an outlet in your house, it's kind of like marginally more cost effective than a gas car, even in our gas here.
The kicker with the solar tracker was the batteries, and I believe that still applies to EV. You can make it all sorts of efficient, but the batteries crap out after a while. Just like car batteries, they don't last very long.
Lead acid batteries, no, they're for starting a car and running some accessories, and it's just they're cheap. That's why people use them. You can buy a lithium-ion battery that's in a 12-volt form factor, like for a motorcycle. Yes, you can buy a lithium-ion battery that it looks like a lead-acid battery. You put it in there, part of my teaching is the battery component of EVs and how those work, and not necessarily the chemistry, but how it's managed and so forth, and the life cycles. In Minnesota, I don't think it makes sense to have an EV. I know people have them, but it's so
agreed.
It's so cold there that the battery
at 30 below, goofy things happen.
Yeah, the batteries don't like that. The batteries are like room temperature, like 75 degrees. Then you're going. And I always thought it'd be good to heat the batteries somehow in your house, but it doesn't work. So in some places like California, it's warm here. It's like 65 today, so or something like that. They make a lot of sense, but not every place. But I bought this place with the solar on it. I added some, but it is all finished. It's it's new house. So I like the fact that I can be energy efficient. I actually work in that area. I like the fact that being energy efficient just appeals to me. I'm not an environmentalist at all, but I like the appeal of being efficient and getting it done for cheap. Is what I like.
Oh my gosh. This was more of a just like, oh, speaking of distractions, not reading the article, this was more just for the fun of it than anything else. But when Russia first attacked Crimea, that's when I built the solar tracker in my backyard. And then I had 12 deep cell 6-volt batteries in my basement to bypass the heating issue that you were talking about. And then I set up a separate solar or circuit breaker in my house, and I ran wires to different levels. It was a 2-story.
Interesting.
So I put in a separate electrical system, all like completely independent from the normal one. And for the most part, during the day, it worked just fine. Worked great for like a year and a half until I sold the house.
Have you seen those solar trackers that are hooked to fiber optic cables for lighting in your house? So it's a series of lenses, and at the end, at the focal point of the lens is a fiber optic cable, and the bundle of cables run into a light in your house. That's 100%.
You posted about that not too long ago, didn't you? Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I read that. That was awesome. That was super cool.
I think it would be expensive. It's probably cheaper to put LED lights in, but I thought it was cool that you don't have to pay anything for lights. It doesn't work at night, of course, right? It won't work at night, but.
Just the challenge. Oh my gosh, we gotta read the article. There's a part here. You know what? I'm gonna read the next 2 paragraphs, and then I'm gonna speed read the next 2 paragraphs. The comparison engines and business are similar. The comparison between the two is a unique portion of this topic. And for them, I think I already read this one. Whatever. Yeah. Skipping along. Navigating system variance. 30 minutes is not enough time to deep dive this, so I'm diving into it right away. Variance. Things never work exactly as planned. Environments are never 100% stable, and entropy is real. Perfect is an imperfect idea, and it's real to say most people haven't caught on, and that's the unique part of talking with you. There's a learning curve to learning you don't know. Okay, this is the part I'm going to read this, and then I'm curious to hear what you say. Project charters are bad. I'm interested to hear Jack's feedback on this claim. I'm not a fan of project charters, and I still frequently use them. Like, what else you got? You got to conform, My working alternative is simple and awesome. Control lines like a carburetor, scoping from high-level goals and not its low-level execution. But understanding why it's needed in the first place is complex and confusing, and that's the part most people don't catch on because most people don't know how carburetors work. And then comparison to build, and really control lines is the part that I'm talking about there, because carburetors, they'll work up here and they'll work down here, and that margin in between, that delta in between, covers just about anything under the sun. I used to have my first hot rod I built when I was 16 was an IROC Camaro, and I had a Hillborn scoop on the front. Well, I used to drive that around in the rain. It was my only car, so water was being sucked into the engine. Still worked just fine. Like just an extreme variance. Yeah.
The thing about the reason they use fuel injection on cars, I'm going to get into this just briefly, is for emissions. Yeah. You have to.
Oh my gosh. Good point.
The adiabatic ratios, 14:1 is the ratio. You have to maintain that. If you don't, you go lean, the engine goes lean, and it's not good for the engine. You can burn valves, or it's too rich and it pollutes. So you really can't. I mean, they used to have catalytic converters on carbureted cars. They don't work very well. And so the carb is a really simple thing. I mean, it makes sense to have a carburetor on a lawnmower or something like that, or a rototiller, whatever. But it doesn't make sense to have fuel injection on a rototiller. But most cars and motorcycles now are EFI, fuel injected. So to your let me just tell a quick story. I have a friend who has no prior experience with robotics, started a robot company, and I look at that and I go, I think they're doomed. I mean, she has no experience doing it, And it's just very dangerous financially. And the problem is, if you get your ego wrapped up in it, I mean, you're doing interviews and stuff with the press or whatever, and you start to fail and you can see it's failing, you immediately respond by dumping more capital into it when you should just let it fail.
Resources. Oh.
Yeah, don't just, if it's not going to work, just don't do it and move on. That's kind of what I've learned. Like, I had a camera company, I had two camera companies, one called Lucid Cam and another one called Ampio, right? This is 10 years ago. Ampio was an accessory for GoPro. So you could put this thing on there and start and stop the camera with a wireless remote that's on your wrist, like a watch, right?
Sweet.
Neither my partner or I did any of the financial analysis on it. It turns out we could not make more of the thing. So it sold for $32 and it cost us $8, right? Then we have salaries and all that stuff and expenses and so forth. But the margins on it were too low to produce more without investing further capital. So we canned the company. We closed it. It was a smart thing to do. And we'd already finished all the tooling, everything, the packaging, retail connections, Cycle Gear wanted it. All these companies wanted it, but we couldn't sell it. You know, that's $32 retail. I mean, we're selling it to them for 20 and it cost $8. So we got $12. You can only make one more. And then you got $4 profit, but you can't grow the company. So neither one of us did any kind of analysis. I just jumped in there and said, that sounds like a great idea. And
oh my gosh.
Lucid Cam was a stereo camera company. I didn't start it, another guy did, but that also failed. And it was a VR camera. And the reason it failed is just the cost of goods margins. It's very difficult. Camera. I learned a lot about the camera business. This is what I learned. Everyone has a camera. They have it with them all the time. So who wants to buy another camera? You don't. You have it there. It's good enough, right? So that's what we learned about the camera business. I'll never do another camera company again. And so, and the other thing you can do is change strategies. Like, to your point here on your paragraph, like, let's say one thing you're trying in the company is not working out, but then you see a light go on somewhere else. There's interest in this other stuff, but not so much interest in the main point of the company, the startup. That's okay. You can change horses and just do the thing and make the prototype.
That is real good. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. But if it's not going anywhere, you have to do. I'm not a financial guy, right? I'm not good at finances. I'm wealthy, but I'm not good with money. I'm okay with it. It's just not my thing. I understand taxes and stuff like that because I had to understand that, but you know, buying equipment, depreciation, but it's just not my thing. I let someone else manage that for me. And it's a lot easier. The thing with me is that I always do the irrational thing. Like, I hear about a company, like an AI company, right? I just did this. And I go, they're red hot. And are they really red hot? Well, the more I read about them, the more I found out that the stock value is overpriced. It's overpriced, and their market cap is 60 billion, and then they're not a public company yet. They're going to be, but I already bought the stock, you know. So I'm going. I think that was maybe a bad buy. I don't know. That's what I mean. I rely on other people to do that stuff for me. It's not always a good choice for me to get involved with that. So knowing your capabilities is very important. The older you get, the more you get to know what you can and can't do. If you try different things and it didn't work out, you hope. Some people aren't like that, but I've kind of learned over 4 decades or 5 decades what I can and can't do and what I'm capable of, I'm not capable of. I could never be a professional football player. There's no way.
Not with that attitude.
When I was 20 and I wanted to be, I couldn't do it. I can't do the work. It's too hard. And I can never be a hockey player. I can never be a professional golfer. I'm not even going to try. The stuff I'm good at is what I'm doing, and I just stick with that. And so I think your point on charters is, as to the robotic company, I mentioned that to you. I wouldn't do that. I would never do that. And I think it's a complex problem and with no market for it. And then you got to be able to like cut it loose if it's not working out, and that I can do. I can cut it off. Let me talk about Oculus just briefly, and Guitar Hero. Let's talk about Guitar Hero because this is along this point.
Just one moment. Do you mind if we go late? You know, I was talking about a half an hour. I think.
I know that you got me started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is like super. I'm going to tell my audience that I'm posting this late. I'm just going to post it in the comment here if you're cool with it.
Yeah, fine. That's fine. So on Guitar Hero, right? It's a plastic guitar that you play on a video game, right? And I'm looking at that, and I work in that industry, and I go, this is silly. But I like the guys, and I got introduced to it at CES, and this is in 2005, January 2005, right? Kelly Sumner is the chief executive officer at Take-Two, which is a big video game company. He's a big high-powered exec. Said, you got to see this. And they take me in this room, and there's these two Taiwanese guys standing there with plastic guitars from another company, and they had written a demo game for it, right? I go, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. This is really dumb. Boy, was I wrong. We sold 64 million of those over a period of about 4 years. And it was a super popular game, and no one asked me about Oculus ever. They always ask me about Guitar Hero. Tell me about Guitar Hero. And I tell them the story. But I don't know what's going to make it and what won't. I have no idea. I just try it, and if it doesn't, I can kind of feel it sometimes, but not always. And so along comes Oculus. Oculus, same thing. I go, it's kind of dumb, this thing. When I was thinking about it, when I was back away from the group of people I was working with, it's like, I mean, people aren't going to be walking around on the sidewalk with these things on their head. They're not, right? And then I said, and what's the market for this? Because in video games, the experience is like this. It is a social thing. It's a social thing. It's total social. That's the component that they got right. And there has to be a strategy and a goal, a mutual goal. You're playing on a team like Call of Duty. You're playing with other players all over the world, and you have a common goal. It has to have a goal setting and a goal accomplishment, and it has to have social. The visual part of it isn't that important. It isn't. Have you seen Roblox, like video game?
Oh my gosh, it's my daughter's favorite. Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst graphics.
It really is. Minecraft style. Yeah.
But yeah, Minecraft is like that too. But it's a fun game, and it has 178 million players, regular players now. So, what in Oculus? How do you read that? Well, the way you read it is that unless an Oculus has a strong social component in it, and goals and strategies in the play, it ain't gonna make it. And I was right on this one. Even though we sold the company, they have not sold that many of the headsets. It's kind of in this grand scheme of video games, it's a small seller. It's not selling well, even though they keep making it. I will say this though, that the Wayfarer glasses that they made, those are really good. But it's just a camera and a mic and a headset. It's basically, I really like those. I got those as a gift. I've also got all the Quests, except for the latest one. But the rollout of that was they blew it, and they didn't. It's an advertising company. Facebook is an ad company. They sell ads. Getting into hardware like this is not in their knowledge base. And I think they went
all in.
They went all in. They changed the name of the company.
Yeah,
they thought it was the future, and it's not. The 2D games played on a phone or on a computer, a laptop. It's still that. It's still that. Or a console also. PS2 or whatever, PS5. That's the way it is. So Nintendo Switch is another big surprise. I looked at that and I go, this is silly, but I was wrong. I was wrong more than I was right. So the other thing, Jonathan, is my career is based on relationships with people. I built relationships with people, and I maintained those. And it was very important because when the thing came along, the startup or whatever I'm working on, a game, they go, McCauley knows what he's doing. Why don't we call him? He's easy to work with. No, I'm not, but I am. I think so. And he's really good at it. And they always called me. And then I stayed in those relationships. the former guy I mentioned from Take-Two, the CEO of Take-Two, Grand Theft Auto, he published that game. That's his game, right? He hired me to work on a sports game, sort of a game training device. That 10 years ago, he hired me right after Guitar. He was this CEO of Guitar Hero too. And he hired me again. That's how it went down. And then he tried to hire me for another company that I didn't take him up on it. I was working at Oculus actually at that time. So that's how it went down with me. But you know, and I still do a little bit of that stuff. I'm working on stuff in here, consumer device here, but it's pretty much the end of it. But my point is, this is like, I don't know. Don't ask me what's going to succeed. I just don't know. I try different things and I'm fast at getting it done. But I never know exactly what's going to succeed. I do know, I do know that somebody else who knows more about that than I do will hire me. And that's what happened.
Oh my gosh. You know, I think everything you just said could tie, or not. I think most of what you just said could tie back into my theme on this article. You, as an expert, as one of the top people on planet Earth in this kind of stuff, still can't predict everything, or still, I don't remember how. I'm not able to quote you.
Politics. It's like predicting politics or
oh
the
my gosh.
You can't do. No one can do that. You know, maybe Warren Buffett's good at it, but you know, I'm not Warren Buffett. You can't. You never know what's going to happen. A lot of it has to do with who you have around you. And I hired good people, and I tried to hire the best I could find. But generally, that is what. The other thing, you like when you're working with people, you just got to leave them alone. I've learned that over time. You can't micromanage people. I kind of leave them alone and let them do the thing. I stick my nose in once in a while, but that's the most successful thing. That's the thing that I learned about working is I just left people to do their thing and didn't get in their grill. I had to learn that though.
Holy cow. Okay, well, your point there speaks to my working alternative to, okay, two different things. We're just going to wing it here from here. No point in reading the rest of the article because you just covered all the main points. First, even being an expert, even being the top, you know, the best on planet Earth for this kind of stuff, it's still super hard to predict things, almost impossibly hard to predict stuff. And that's my claim to why project charters don't work. And it's more psychological than mechanical. Like building a project charter gives people the impression that you have it all worked out. But the reality is it's impossible to work things out. You know, Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched. Like it doesn't work like that. But doing a project charter and implementing a project charter gives people that impression. It's wrong. Yeah. That's kind of my claim here.
Let me ask you a question. I know you're a boxing coach.
Yes, sir.
When I was young, you know, in my generation, we used to fight people. We would get in fist fights with people. Even the guy that worked for me, I used to get in fist fights with.
Awesome.
And you know, I got my nose broken. I got my nose broken, my jaw broken.
Mine leads to the left.
Yeah, mine doesn't. I had it fixed. And but then I stopped doing that. But I found out I wasn't good at that either. I was okay. I could run, you know. And then a lot of young people, when I was, you know, Bruce Lee, right, the Asian actor, right? He's a karate guy or kung fu, right?
Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, back then he was like, he just showed up on the scene. He was a badass. So all the kids in the neighborhood were building nunchucks. You're like,
awesome.
Ow, ow. You know, they'd carry them in their pocket, like they're, you know, their back pocket, like they were getting ready for kung fu. You took a broomstick and a piece of chain between them. You just cut the broomstick, and that was your nunchuck. But some of the guys got really quick with them. I don't know. I was not particularly fond of combat sports, and my brother did kickboxing, like not Muay Thai. I forgot what he called it, but Bok Fu, I forget. And he was good. My older brother is good at it. He likes to do that stuff. But I remember I went to go see his match, right? And he was fighting an adult. He was 18 years old, fighting a guy that was 36, right? A little past his prime, but my brother knocked him out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he hit him and his eyes rolled back in his head. The guy like this. Yeah, that's the extent. Let me ask you a question. How long have you been boxing?
About 20 years.
Oh wow, okay. How did you get started in that? Just for fun, or?
I was the stereotypical nerd growing up, captain of the chess club in school. Kids used to beat me up all the time. I did. My social network was super small, and as a teenager, I blossomed into combat. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Never. Yeah.
That's
Rough
interesting.
childhood equals boxing structure. You don't go to jail for boxing. It's supported.
So yeah, you don't get charged for the assault either.
Yes, sir.
I guess
Yes,
you
sir.
could, but you get to so I would watch that Jake Paul Tyson fight, right? And
Awesome. I only seen a little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the same here. I watched it for a while. I could tell that Tyson was holding back.
Uh-huh.
And that guy, Jake Paul, I don't know what he's trying to do. He's gonna get in a fight with someone like Canelo or someone like that. The Mexican boxer. That guy would destroy him.
Oh my God, for sure.
Yeah. And they were interviewing Jake Paul, and the guy that interviewed goes, "Well, you're kind of like the low level boxer, right?" And Jake Paul's, "Oh no, I'm like the best guy around, right?" He's convinced himself that
I'm the greatest.
Yeah. But Muhammad Ali was the greatest. He was a real deal.
Oh my God. Well, this is deep thoughts. We could tie that back in. Somewhere along the way, I was active listening, so I'm going to remember forget some of the specifics. But you were talking about I'm a visual thinker too, so I was picturing it. You're talking about like the mechanics and then the psychological interpretation of what's going on. Like you have Canelo, like an actual boxer, over Jake Paul. It is possible that Jake Paul will make more money in boxing than Canelo because of the sensationalism, the psychological variables. Like, you don't actually have to be great. You just have to convince people that you're great. And there's a weird mush in between those things. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to watch boxing. I like to watch the combat sports, UFC and so forth. Muay Thai, I like watching that too. I was just in Thailand, I don't know, a month ago.
I saw that. Yeah. Awesome.
They teach that's a Muay Thai haven, right? And I talked to the cab driver who's driving me up to the airport, and I said, he goes, "You should take Muay Thai here. You should study it here." He goes, "We have a lot of Westerners coming over here to learn it," right? And I'm going like, yeah, that's not a good occupation for me. But apparently a lot of people are really into it. I think YouTube and Reels, Facebook Reels, Instagram have popularized that sport. And I think also, like, better than I do, that UFC is very popular right now. Dana White, and it's very popular right now. And Mark Zuckerberg's into combat.
That image made me laugh instantly. Yeah. Awesome.
He might be good. He might kick my ass. I don't know. So
just the thought of his white, super baby white. Yeah.
I don't. He doesn't impress me as a tough guy, but you never know. I learned that when I was a kid. Don't underestimate people.
Oh my gosh, this I don't know if it's left or right or with my crooked nose. It was from some 18-year-old kid that I think it was his second fight ever, third fight ever, and I think I was on like my 70th or 80th. Like, I was basically guaranteed to win this match. No, he broke my nose like right away because it was boxing, so like that's the point.
Okay.
But I was all cocky about it, or that's kind of like the summation of 20 years of boxing is we could tie that back into this. You don't know. Like, what seems obvious might not be obvious because there's unknown variables. Like, this little kid just caught me, or I wasn't blocking, or whatever. Things happen,
Yeah, I came out when I was in college. I had a Triumph sports car, and I came out and I go, there was a guy in my trunk of my car, and I go, "He's got a car just like mine." He go, "Wait a minute, that's where I parked," and he was ripping me off. He was robbing my car, right? So
Oh, I just got that.
I punched him so hard in the face, I broke my hand.
Ah,
That boxer's fracture, I have that.
yeah.
And he was stealing something out of my trunk. Anyways, so I dragged him to the security office, and guess who got in trouble? Me.
That's
For
the way it
punching
works.
him. Yeah, I know. You got and then his dad called me. And he goes, "I'm going to sue you." I said, "Well, I don't own anything. I'm broke." And then I never really heard back.
Checkmate, good sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. I had like 40 thoughts. They're getting back to active listening. Holy cow, this is a super cool conversation. Yeah. Well, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm just, I want to get your opinion on this portion. Not so much my solution, because I'm not articulating it very well there with the control lens like a carburetor, but really when we're talking about project charters, we are talking about the global standard. Like this is how the government works, as you know. Yep. This is how other government, like this is how humans get stuff done. And as far as I can tell, this change management portion, that's what I'm speaking to here, is horrible. Like it doesn't work. Like, and it's the psychological variables, because you care a lot. Everybody cares a lot on day one. People care less on day 50, or even if they cared equally as much, the environmental context, the environmental variables are different. Like the person that's making that super important, possibly the most significant decision in the entire length of the project, doesn't care as much as the people that built the project charter. It is impossible for that to not be true. And we were talking about like the framework of project management on planet Earth. Super interesting. Yeah.
So as I said earlier in our conversation, if you're working on so there's a couple things. One, if you have investors and you've sold them on an idea, it's very difficult to change that idea because they're the investors, unless you can get them on board with it. So let's say you have a company and what you're working on is not, the market you found is not good and so forth, but you see something else you can do, like I mentioned. If you don't have investors, it's an easy one. But if you have investors, you have to go have meetings with them and explain why you're changing things and why you're doing this.
The whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, and they may not invest anymore if they see you doing that. So you got to be kind of careful. Most of the stuff that I did, the two camera companies, one of the camera companies, it was all my capital. And then the other stuff I've done, I used to do video game consoles. This is in the 90s, like 95, right? And we built video game consoles for McDonald's. Myself and another company did. So the idea was this: you put the cabinet in the restaurant and it's got kid games on it. When they get their Happy Meal, they get a little coupon that they stick in the machine. It's a magnetic card reader, and they can play video games at the McDonald's, right?
Cool.
Yeah, it's a good idea, right? So sounds. That we found out though, the footprint of the cabinet takes away from people eating hamburgers, like coming in to eat hamburgers. If you have a cabinet in there, there's one person less eating hamburgers. So that was the challenge we had. And the business was with this guy in Texas who owned 8 McDonald's chains. 8. And this guy had worked at McDonald's his whole life since he was a kid, like 16, he was working at McDonald's. He stayed there. And so he had 8 franchises, and they're all on busy highways, like the best place you can put them, with a big McDonald's sign, near an exit. McDonald's sign before the exit, so you get off and buy our hamburgers, right? And this is a long time ago. He's making $250,000, clearing $250,000 a year per restaurant. So he's making $2 million a year off of it. I didn't know that. But anyways, this was his idea. It wasn't my creation. But it turns out that some operators want a lot of seats in the restaurant because they want people to come in out of their car and sit down and buy food. And so that was the whole problem. So we built them. We installed beta versions in some of the McDonald's in this area here. One San Ramon, we had one. And it turns out no one wanted to do it. That was the problem. After investing all the money and time into this, and also the other thing I learned about McDonald's is they're like a cheapskate outfit. I mean, their margins are super low. You know, they're not making, they sell a hamburger, I don't know what it is, $12 for a meal now or something like that. Back then it was like $6 or $5 for a meal. So they're not making much money. So they'd have to have volume, you know. Having people come into the restaurant and sit there for an hour, hour and a half, taking up space, you can eat your meal in 15 minutes and split. That was the problem. None of us saw that. I didn't see that. I mean, I don't know the fast food business, the restaurant business very well. That was the entire problem with that idea. And of course, that one failed after I spent a lot of money on it. You see McDonald's like, oh, they got tons of restaurants. We're going to sell cabinets at every restaurant, you know. It wasn't the case that he didn't know the restaurant business. So what's my point is like, do we change our charter? No, but understanding and getting advice on things before you engage. Should the guy that owned the restaurants, they ate McDonald's there. You know, I don't know why he didn't tell us this, but I found that out in San Ramon when we put the thing there. He goes, well, it's taking up too much space. The kids are in here for an hour and a half playing video games, and they're taking up space inside the restaurant, and then we're not selling burgers. You know, it's kind of what it came down to. John and I have done a lot of stuff like this over 30 years, 35 years, many things that just didn't work out. And I have a whole series of inventions and projects that I've built that I abandoned because I could see that it wasn't going to work for me. It wasn't going to work out. So changing my charter every time, and then principally, you know, I did a lot of stuff with my own money. I paid for all, like this thing I'm working on here. I paid for that. One of the engineers that we have here is working on it. He's paid a little bit differently than that, but I'm doing it for free because I hope to get a piece of the action when we sell it. We're going to sell the business to a appliance maker, and I'm going to get a chunk of that. I'm not taking a salary, and I'm doing it for someone else. But we have a plan here. Do I think this one will work out? I think this one's going to work out because there's nothing like it, and there's a market for it for sure. So
keep swinging.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Oh my gosh. I watched the movie The Founder about McDonald's or whatnot. It's the only reason I know this. But I believe McDonald's.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. McDonald's, like their claim to fame, from my understanding, is like the Lean Six Sigma kind of strategy where everything was perfect, or like, you know, the system. And the movie The Founder spoke to that. That's when they transitioned from the whatever just in California to the franchise model and going out there. They were selling that system, which speaks to the issue that you hit because you were modifying that simplistic cookie cutter the franchise model by taking away those 2 feet or 3 feet or whatever.
That's right. That was the problem with it. Yeah, the people, and also the kids are hanging around there 2 or 3 hours and taking up space. People come into the restaurant, it's crowded, they leave. And so, and also, you know, I've heard this, I don't know whether it's true, McDonald's makes money on real estate, but
that's what I heard.
I have another story. I met this guy, I met him at a conference, and he owns Krispy Kreme donuts in Mexico, right? He owns franchises in Mexico. Krispy Kreme donuts are popular there, right? In Porto, they have a Krispy Kreme. They also have a Home Depot there and a Walmart in Puerto Vallarta. So he opens these restaurants, right? And Krispy Kreme makes money by selling you the flour and the butter and the sweeteners and all that stuff, right? But it doesn't work that way in Mexico. In Mexico, this is what he told me. You buy it from a family member. A supplier is a family member, like a relative. It's kind of the way it is, a familial system, which is not what Krispy Kreme wants. They want you to buy the raw materials from them. That's how they're making their bucks. This is what he told me. And so, but in Mexico, it doesn't work like that. So it's difficult to have a franchise in Mexico, I'm told. Although I see Burger Kings and stuff there, McDonald's, KFC. But that's what he told me. He struggled with the company, Krispy Kreme, because of this. And it's just a different system there. So I think you have to be adaptive, or, you know, change your profit, how you're making your profit,
which ties back to this article, the ego or the overconfidence, the overconfidence output of building a project charter, and then people just naturally assume it's going to work out that way. You know, you mentioned McDonald's and your not being able to predict the implementation. I don't know, visual thinker. I was picturing it like a voice of the customer kind of situation. You know, not enough feedback, but you still have the environmental variables. Like, what if culture itself changed and then kids decided they don't like video games anymore or something goofy? You know, I'm being extreme on purpose. You have, those internal variables, and then just I call it entropy in the article, but just the goofy stuff. Like, we have no control over the universe outside of this tiny little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't, and I don't pretend to know what's going to succeed or not. I have a strong feeling about certain things. I've been right off, sometimes I've been completely wrong. I think the thing that I'm doing now, I think I have a good chance with, but we'll see. I mean, I don't build appliances, like home appliances. I don't do that. I've never done it. So I don't know how the companies are run. Like Keurig, that company that makes the little coffee makers and stuff, like they sell the coffee maker like close to cost, but they make money on the little cartridges, the coffee cartridges, right? And then I go into Costco and I go, wait a minute, Costco has their cartridges. So what? I wonder how that sits with Keurig, that Costco is selling cartridges with coffee in it and not Keurig cartridges at a discount. And then it turns out that Keurig makes the cartridges for Costco. So that's how that. So, this is the business model that I kind of have with this thing. It's not a coffee machine, but I don't know that business very well, and I'm going to learn a lot. Fortunately, I've got some help with it. I've got someone who's good at selling stuff, and it has an inside track to an appliance company. And then I look at like Wolf, that company, Wolverine, this is General Electric and Thermador and stuff like that. How do they make money? Because they sell the thing for $2,200 or something like that, and that's it. There's no revenue coming back ever from it. But the video game console, they sold it at cost. It's a $350, $400, whatever it is. But they have recurring revenue always, tons of revenue coming in off of it. I just don't understand the appliance business unless it's like Keurig, where you have recurring revenue with it. Why sell something one time? You want money coming in off of it always. So I guess what I'm saying is I probably wouldn't get involved with something that didn't have recurring revenue, and that's the business model this thing has. It just wouldn't build it, and I just don't think I could succeed at it, even though I've never done an appliance.
You'd always be fishing for customers, and that's
if you present the business as reoccurring revenue, it's a different entity than saying you sell it one time and that's it. Because I work in the reoccurring revenue of the video games. It's got to, you have a franchise and you got to keep making money at it. So that's where I work. I'm kind of in that spectrum of things. A camera accessory, there's no recurring revenue on that. Once it's sold, and you have to make more. Difficult business to be in. I don't know how camera companies make money. I just don't understand how they.
You spoke to community. Oh, sorry. You spoke to community. So somewhere along the way here, you mentioned that portion of it too. Maybe it was in video. I don't remember where, but like the community or the net. Maybe you said network. Like you have the product, and then you have all the fans of the product, and that fan has there's like a value. Yeah. Hard to quantify that.
But like I mentioned, the video games have to have a strong social component, and it has to have a great goal setting and goal-oriented play. Otherwise, people aren't going to do it. There's games that they're like meta, metaverse type games. They're just never done very well. Second Life, it's like 980,000 users. It's very low, and that started in 2000. Call of Duty, has many millions and millions and millions of regular players, and Second Life doesn't have goals. It's a fantasy world. You walk around. I mean, who wants to do that? First time I put the Quest in the metaverse and they had their metaverse, there's a disco in it. It's like, I don't want to go into a disco. I want to shoot something,
Call of Duty was my game back in the day. Yeah.
I want to blast stuff and or race a car. I'm going to get in a race car. That's
Mario Kart. Yeah.
Shoot stuff, blow stuff up. That's what that's where I'm kind of at with it. So.
Oh my gosh. We are coming up on an hour here, and I think this is probably pretty good. I've been following your post for a while. I am confident you and I could BS for a weekend without a problem.
Yeah.
It's
once you get me going.
Oh my gosh, super awesome. Well, let's end it on a high note, Dave. I'm gonna ambush you with an ask. One thing you'd like our audience to take away from this, well, just one good thought, like the closing thought to this episode. How would you like people to, if we can, we were all over the place. If we can tie it back to the theme of the article. Yes, sir.
My career, of course, I have the creative stuff going on. I'm good at that. But so do a lot of people. But they don't have the connections I have. And they don't have the relationships that I built. I built those relationships. And so that's the key is my stuff was all relationship based. So, do I talk to those people? Once in a while, I talk to them. Incidentally, the guy that, this is two stories, just real quick.
I like it.
Math Institute in Berkeley, MSRI, Math and Science Research Institute, it's a post-grad place. I'm a board member. How did I get the board member? Through a guy I used to work with, going up on 35 years ago for Kodak Research. He was a professor in Berkeley, but I stayed in touch with the guy. I called him once a year, like twice a year. I go to lunch or see how his family's doing. Just BS like this. I just talked to him, and then he goes, "Well, we're looking for a board member, and would you like to be a board member at MSRI?" Because that's the first one. The other one is the trustee position at UC Berkeley. How did I get that? Through the guy at Guitar Hero, one of the Taiwanese guys. Both are Berkeley grads, but they thought of me and asked me to join. That's how it went down. Did I get along with the Taiwanese guys when I worked with them? Not really. It's a hard job. But after that, it's like that's the work stuff, work stuff. The other stuff is like social. We're fine there, So that's how I got that position as a trustee. And many things went down like that. I got to Rand Corporation. I'm not really doing anything with them. It was through somebody I knew. And so Asia Society through somebody I knew. I got a membership, a trustee there. So that's how it all went down with me. And I don't have any explanation for that except that I can do the work. Certainly, I can do all this stuff. And then I can work on staying friends with people.
Oh my gosh, there's probably another deep thought episode in here. But like the measurement bias, right? Like people are naturally skewed or naturally inclined to hire people they know. It's not like you analyze the entire population of the planet. You start off with the people you know. Why? Because it's easy, right?
It's a known entity, right? You can hire people who have high levels of education and stunning resumes who turn out to be not so good.
Risk.
Or they're bad fit. I'm not saying they're not good. It's just not a good fit. So you've got to start from things and that's one of the, that's how I succeeded, I guess.
Quite quantifying that, like the not good fit, that could tank the entire project. So then what's the value of that Harvard degree and all those fancy experiences compared to your buddy that you do know is not going to tank the project and he shows up on time? Yeah.
Nobody ever asked me what my GPA was, and nobody asked me where I went to school. They just wanted to know if I had a degree, and I interviewed okay. I never got asked. No big deal. If you went to Michigan State or San Jose State or Santa Clara or wherever, they don't care. They just care what you can do. And that they determine that from the interview and referrals, but from the interview, they determine what you're capable of.
Oh my gosh, we can end it there. Why? Because that ties back into my point on project charters, right? Like,
Yeah.
or my solution to the carburetor control line thing. Give people, empower people to figure it out, right? Don't figure it out for them because things change. Or that's kind of where I'm going with that.
Let me ask
Oh
you a
my
quick
gosh.
question.
Yes,
You
sir.
don't have to record this part.
Oh, and then let
How long
me.
did it take you to condition for boxing? That's a hardcore cardio sport, right?
Oh yes, sir. I'm still recording. Should I end it? You want me to end it?
Oh, yeah, you probably want to end this. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, this was. Well, I'm going to do a little ending spiel here. This was awesome. Thank you, Jack. Much appreciated. Holy cow. That's it.